Well, hello everyone. Hello, my name is Bea and I'm here today, ready to draw with you Canada goose. First of all, first and foremost, we need to be very grateful because we acknowledge that Richmond, where I am now, is located on the traditional and unceded territory of the Coast Salish people, and we are guests in the territory of the indigenous peoples of this land. So for these, we give thanks. Also, thank you to the Richmond Nature Park Society for sponsoring this event and for making it free for you all. There's so many things happening in Vancouver, celebrating Vancouver Bird Week. So I'm going to post a link for you to go there and check things that are happening online. So also, I have to say that this has been, these sessions are recorded. So if you miss something, you will be able to rewatch at a later time, always from the safety of your home. So I'm so happy to see you all. We have friends from the States, we have friends from across the mainland. And today, after the session of the chickadee we just had now, we're going to draw the Canada goose. And we have today to be grateful as well to a photographer that is from Surrey, Frank Lin. He's been very generous and he let us use this fantastic photograph that he took of a Canada goose. So as always, I'm going to go really quickly through the materials that I have. I have an eraser, I have my sharpener, and then I have something called the non-photo blue pencil. I'm going to write here, non-photo blue. And the non-photo blue is going to allow me to draw things at the very beginning as an X-ray skeleton. And so when we go with our 2B graphite pencil, we will not see it. But we're going to start with that. And the reason why mine looks so weird is because it's very tiny. So I just had to put an extender. All the pencils that I like using get very tiny and I don't like to throw them away. So you can get an extender, you can, that way you can use it to all the potential. They don't throw me away, please use me. So that's what I'm doing. The reason why I use the 2B, the graphite, is because it's very easy to erase and it's also very soft. So just any pencil would do, but those are the ones that I notice I like using the most. I also have HB. HB is also nice, but again, the more H's that you see on a pencil, the harder it is. So the more they scratch the page. And the more B's a pencil has written on it, 3B, 4B, the softer it is. So that's something that you can test at home. Okie dokie. So are we doing okay? I imagine you can hear me. I hope I didn't go through all these and you couldn't hear me. Can you give me a little note on the chat? That's very important also. We're going to communicate via chat, not the Q&A, the chat. So if you can just text really quickly whether you can hear me, fantastic. Thank you so much, Easy. I really appreciate that. Would have been bad if all this stuff was in silence. So let's look at this photo, the Canada goose. We're going to learn a lot. I was learning so much about the Canada goose when I was preparing for these. So the first thing we're going to do is notice things. Like the first thing I noticed is it has a very long neck. But look at that body. Oh my gosh, it's almost as long as the neck. Isn't that like a tiny sparrow? This is big. And look at this, it has a white, like a square looking stripe on his face. But other than that, it's all black. And also I noticed that it kind of ends here, this black, and from here to here, it could look like a regular goose, isn't it? But if I don't see the top, it could look like a regular goose. But when I see the neck, when I see the stripe, I can be like, that's a Canada goose. One thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start with my head. And I always like to start with circles. So I'm going to start, let's see, I'm going to make sure that my drawing will be able to fit on the page. So I'm going to do, let's see, I don't want to throw away my pencils. I'm going to start with a circle. And to make a circle, you can go over as many times as you need. Can I use a red pencil? Yeah, the reason why I'm using blue is because when we go, imagine I'm doing a circle, right? And I'm going over with a pencil, we no longer see the blue. I wonder if you use a red, whether it's going to be very visible. You can try for sure. Just try to go very, very, very soft. I have a red here. So if you're going to sketch with a red, make sure you go very light. Okay. Yeah, you can try it out. I haven't tried it, but in my work, the trick is to make it very soft so you will not see it afterwards. Okay, so yeah, I think in my test here, I think a red could work as well. So yeah, let's make a circle for the head. And one thing I was testing before is that this distance, whatever your circle is for the head, is going to be 3 heads. So if my circle is this, I think if I do another circle, 1, 2, and 3, the same size as the first circle that you did, it just so happens that that is the distance of the neck. Isn't that a nice trick? Now it looks like a snowman or like a caterpillar. But yeah, if whatever size you drew the first circle, draw 3 more circles underneath. And where that ends, that's this part here, where the neck ends. Are we doing good? Good. I tend to go, sometimes I get so excited, I get so super fast. So it's good that you tell me on the chat whether you want me to slow down. That's very good for me. So please don't feel that you cannot speak. You can totally write on the chat, go slowlier, please. The second thing I'm going to do is the body, a very big circle for the body. But if you notice, the circle, all these, is going to go a little bit. You see the head here. I'm not going to draw the circle here. If you see, it's going to be more aligned with the head. So all the circle is going to be more on this side, at this side of the head. So let's do that. How big? Well, I could measure it. Like, I guess I could do the same distance, and I could use my fingers to do from here to here and a little bit more. So whatever distance you have in your page, you can move your hand below to here. So that's my circle. And then just use your whole arm. Don't worry about anything. You just use your whole arm and make sure that you draw a circle. Yes, Audrey, thank you so much. I'll slow a little bit down. Let's go over through the things that I said before. We started with a circle for the head, and whatever circle size you choose, draw another 3 more underneath. 1, 2, and 3. And that's going to be our neck. Now it looks like a snowman with a lot of heads, but I promise you, that's just your neck. And the other thing I said is, like, if you measure with your hand, if I put my fingers from the top to the bottom and I move my hand, I can mark in the page and say, oh yeah, that's pretty much the distance that I need. 1 and 2. And it depends on, maybe your distance is like this. So you just have to duplicate that. So there we go. I hope that you were able to catch up, Audrey. Sorry about that. Again, I get very excited about this. So let's draw our second very big circle. It's more like an ellipse at this point. And I hope you can see it well in the screen. I'm going to press a little bit harder so you can see it. There we go. I think that's clearer. And one thing I was saying is that this ellipse is drawn a little bit on this side. It's not here in the middle of the page, because as you see, the neck is connecting to the body in the front. Other things that I noticed about this very, very, very interesting creature is that it has a very, very, very big underbelly. So I'm going to make sure that all these is curved. Make sure that these is very curvy. Otherwise, it hasn't eaten too much. Are we doing good? Good. The other thing we're going to do are the legs. But now, so far, we're just going to draw our line for the surface. And we're just draw the sticks figures for the legs. We're not going to go into detail until later. But one thing I like to do when I'm working from a photo is to put a pencil on top of the photo and angle the pencil the same way as the legs in the photo. So as you see, this leg, if I put the pencil, it's like this. So if I bring this pencil to my drawing, at least I have the right angle of that leg. Let's do that again. If I put my pencil on top of the leg of my photo, if I do this, I cannot see it. But if I do this, oh, that's the angle. So let me bring this to my drawing and make the line. Is the other leg also like this? Let's see. No, this other leg is oriented like this. This one was like this, and this one is like this. So let me bring the pencil. Oops, let's do that again. Let's bring these to my drawing. So I didn't know this until I had used my pencil, that these legs, one is angled this way, and the other one is angled this way. Now this looks so weird. Like, what is this? This is not a Canada goose. I promise you. Stay with me. Let's go to the head. One thing that is very distinctive is this stripe. So let's draw the head now with a little bit more of detail, and let's add the stripe. The beak, that's gonna make this more like a duck, like a goose than what is now. So one thing I noticed is that although we draw a circle, this head is a little bit flat on the top and is pointy where the bill or the beak is, and then comes back to the head. It's like almost like a triangle. So I wonder if I make the top a little bit flat, as I observe in the image, and I do that on my drawing, and then I add a triangle whether I will be able to use that as a kind of as a benchmark for what I want to do. So let's draw a triangle. And one thing I noticed is that the triangle might not end in a pointy end. It might actually end a little bit flat. Do you see why I'm using my blue pencil? Because I can make all these corrections. So I made a top that is a little bit flat. And from there, I just went on my triangle. And then from my triangle, instead of following that circle, I'm going to make a line like this. Did you see that? Like a curve. And now I have a closer, actually, shape of that head. Do you see that? Let's repeat what I went through. I had my circle, and what I did is I flattened the top, and then I started making a triangle that ended in a flat line, and I ended my triangle in a curvy line. So now I have my head, the head of a goose. And not all other animals have the same beaks, or not all geese have the same beaks, but I'm looking at this photograph, and that's pretty much how my goose looks like. Let's do the neck. If you follow the neck with a pencil or even with your finger, you can see that it's a little bit curvy. It's not like straight, like, oh, my neck is hurting, I cannot twist it. It's very I wonder if it looks like an S. So with my blue pencil, I can go and draw a line that is a little bit of an S. That is going to be my guide. Do you see that? And all I need to do now is follow that line to make a very curvy neck. Can you follow along? Great. let's do that. I'm just adding a little bit of meat to the neck, so it's not thin, thin, thin. And I'm connecting my head. All these heads that I added on the neck were my guide for the height. I'm forgetting about those. I'm connecting my head to my body with very curvy lines. Do you see that? Good. One thing I noticed is that here where the neck joins the body, do you see this triangle here? That's very interesting. So it looks as if the neck was getting thicker and thicker. So let's make sure we add that detail. This neck is getting thicker, and this neck is thicker before it joins the body. So do you see where we're using our blue pencil? Because we're now carving all our shapes. How about that? Are we doing good? Good, good, good. Our neck is going to finish around here. So I'm just going to make a line to remind myself that that's where the black is going to end. And now I'm just going to suggest a wing. And the wing goes from here to the very end. This is one wing here and one wing here. But I'm not going to worry about all the feathers. I'm just going to do a very big oval for both. One here and one here. And I'm going to wait for you. So don't worry if you are taking your time. We're all learning together. How are you doing? Are you doing good? One big oval for the wing that we see closer to us, and one oval for the wing. We're going to draw it all like with our X-ray vision that is behind. I know this looks like, starting to look like a goose. Let's add a little bit of volume to the legs. This was as our stick leg, but if you notice, there's a little bit of thickness here, and then it's thinner, and then thinner, and our ankle. And in the photo, we don't see the legs the feet very well, but I will make a detail for you here. So it's a little bit thicker where it meets the body, and then we see the knee a little bit thinner, and then our leg definitely thinner. You're doing wonderful. I'm good. Thank you, Stephanie. And also Shark is giving us a thumbs up. So I'm glad that you're able to following along. Let's make also this leg. And this one, we don't see these. It looks like pants, doesn't it? Like he's wearing trousers. So because it's behind this, so we don't see that. So let's just draw the end. This part that it was getting thinner, 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 thinner. And one thing I know for sure is that geese are a kind of bird that has 3 fingers. So if you see the footprint, it will have 1, 2, 3, and then they're webbed. So they are swimmers. So if you see something like this, when you're walking around a park, that is a footprint of a goose. So this is from the footprint when they're walking around. But here we're seeing it from the profile. So what we are seeing here is, I'm going to draw a finger. And that's a trick to draw goose feet. First, draw the fingers. One finger, maybe it's behind, and then the other one even more hidden. So we cannot see, we're drawing something like this, but imagine I only have 3 fingers. We're drawing this, this, and this. So I'm drawing 1, 2, and 3. And then we're going to put a web, a line in between them. You will see this so much clearer when we go with our 2B pencil. Actually, let's switch. And let's explain this a little bit more, because I think it's important. When I'm going with my graphite pencil, I can see that we started with our back finger, right? Then we drew the other one, and then we did the other one. Do you see that? And I'm going to do this bigger as well so you can see it. We did our first finger, our second finger, maybe here, and our third finger. One is overlapping, like this is the closer to us. My goodness, I need to erase this. You see, we all need to use eraser. We're going to do our first finger, our second finger, and our third finger. And then we're going to draw a line because they're webbed feet. Do you see that? Let's do that with the other one as well. The other one, we are going to see our first finger. Maybe we are seeing the third finger a little bit smaller there. And then we're going to add our line. And if you look closer to Goose, and I think we can see it in the photo here, but if you look closer, they have another finger in the back, but it's just an accessory finger. It doesn't do much for them. But one thing I really like is that they have nails. So I'm going to add with a tiny triangle. Doop, doop, doop. So I'm just adding a tiny, tiny triangle. I had a goose when I was a kid as a pet, and I guarantee they have nails, especially when she climbed my legs. I could totally tell she had tiny nails. So we have our feet. How about our face? Let's go back up here. So we have basically almost everything. The only thing we don't have is our white stripe and our eye. And if you notice in the photo, the eye is at the same level as the beak, as when the beak starts. So this is our beak. So this is going to be our eye here. And in animals, the bigger the eye, the cuter the animal is. So if you want to make something very, very cute, you have to draw very, very big eyes. I will make the eye a little bit bigger here so you can see that instead of just making a circle with another circle, we can make something more interesting than that. We can actually make the top and the bottom meet with curvy lines, and we need to make another line around it because these are a group of feathers that are around the eye, and that's called the eye ring. And they're very tiny and they're around the eye to protect it. So let's do that, but here. I know it's tiny. That's why I did it there a little bit. There we go. And this is not, it's a little bit hard to see tiny, but yeah, like this is not something that we can look closer. I wouldn't get closer to a Canada goose. They have a little bit of bad temper. So believe me, it's better to look at, in that case, details and photos because they're very protective with their babies. Let's add some feathers. And one thing I really like is to add, when I'm adding either feathers or when I'm adding hair, I like to use either lines like this or M. So in this case, let's see, I know that there's feathers here and I'm going to make them this way. So I'm going to go on top and be like, boop, 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 boop. I'm going to add some hair and I'm going to add some M. And I'm just going around the drawing that we did just with my graphite pencil, and I'm just adding a little bit of plumage. And depending how tidy he is, maybe he has messy hair that day and you can add a little bit of feathers here. You can, oh my goodness, if you want to add a little bit of crazy feathers, you can totally do it. Let's do more things. I'm going to leave the beak for the end of this part because I want to make sure that I add a little bit of detail. So let's continue our drawing. And if you're doing it with red, I hope you're also seeing how now the graphite is the thing that we see the most. So I'm going to continue here. And here, I'm not going to add that many M's because instead they're big feathers. So I'm just, it's more like a line. One thing that we didn't add is a tail. And the tail is at the end. And it's just a tiny line here at the end. And I'm going to erase the tiny drawing I did of the foot. so I can draw a tail. So it doesn't look like he has a foot coming out of his tail. So I'm just adding a little shape like this for the tail. And we're going to do a little bit of detail with the feathers, but not much. You don't have to worry about every single feather. I'm just adding suggestions, suggesting feathers. Let's do more things here. The beak. The beak is interesting because I'm going to make it big here so you can see it. We had our flat top, our triangle. It ended in a flat and then in a curve that connected with the rest of the neck, right? So this is what we have here. Our beak or bill, which is something I learned while I was doing this. It has two parts, the upper part and the lower part. And you know this because you've seen them quack, 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 opening, right? So one thing that is bigger is the top one, because the lower one, at least when the beak is closed, the lower one is smaller. So I'm going to make a line that is closer to the lower part of the beak. That's going to be our guide. Do you see that? And then I'm going to do a line here. Can you see that? Good. Let's add some graphite. Let's add some details. I had some hair. The bill of the Canada goose goes down, and when it reaches the very, very tip of the bill, it becomes a little bit round. And they call it the nail of the beak. Can you believe it? That they have a nail on the beak? That's how they call it. And then this nail continues with the lower beak. It's funny how they look like they're smiling. I'm going to make the line, and it's not a straight line. It's like they're smiling. So let's add. How does yours look like? Good. Let's add this here. I did this here a little bit bigger so you can see the detail. Oh, yeah, let's add the nostril. The nostril is funny because it's like an ellipse, but it's a little bit bigger, and then it becomes a little bit thinner. That's going to be our beak. And then it's connected with the head. See what I did there? Our beak is going to be connected with the head. Let's do that here. And that way you can see it as well. I said like another demo on the real goose. The beak comes here and becomes a little bit round, the nail of the beak, the nail of the bill, and then it continues. Then we have the upper beak is a little bit bigger than the lower beak, and it ends in a smile. And it's not because they're smiling. I'm sure they're smiling, but it's just how it looks. They have very bad temper. They have very bad temper. But wouldn't you have bad temper if someone was trying to get close to your babies? That's why we need to leave them alone. But they're so cute. There we go. So that's our beak. One thing that we noticed was the white strip. So let's make sure that we add our white strip that comes all the way from the neck into the head. Actually, I might correct that and make sure that I have enough space. Sorry about that. Because I see it has a flat shape there. It's like 4 lines. 1, 2, 3, and 4. There we go. So that's our white stripe. And we can make it a little bit curvy, and we can add a little bit of M's to suggest like it has some feathers. There we go. Our neck. So if there is any questions with the beak, if there is any questions where we're done, please, 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 please let me know. I'm going to just make a little bit of adjustments on the, oh my goodness, if this happens to you that your eraser is all dirty, just clean it on the side of the paper and then you can properly erase. So I'm just copying what I did here. There we go. Copying my own drawing. There we go. How are we doing? Are we doing good? What time is it? Oh, wonderful. We have so much time. So let's continue. Have you noticed this little bump here? Let's make sure that we add that. A little bump there. And our body. And I'm always making decisions as I draw with my graphite, always using my blue pencil drawing as my sort of like a blueprint. That's what they call it, blueprint. What do geese eat? Oh, what do geese eat? Well, grass. They eat grass. They eat everything. But on their own, they eat grass, grain, and also tiny, tiny aquatic animals. And what is an aquatic animal? Aquatic animals are animals that live in water, and also aquatic plants, plants that live in water. What are tiny aquatic animals? Well, tiny, maybe tadpoles, tiny frogs, tiny fish, everything that kind of lives in the water. It's not a good idea to feed Canada geese, okay? It's not good because that messes up with their inside. So it's better to leave them eat the things that they find in nature. So that's very, very important. But also there's so many parks. They live, you can find them in parks, and you can find them in lake shores. You can find them everywhere that is water, ponds, farmland, and you can find them all year round, but they're migrating birds. So we're gonna explain that in a second. What is migration? But this is what they eat. And you can write all the things that you find interesting about the animal you're sketching while you're sketching. I just make some tiny boxes there. How about that? They're very fast learners too. Learners, they learn very quickly, and yeah, you can become friendly with geese, but the Canada geese particularly, they're not very friendly. My geese was not a Canadian goose, I have to say. So it was more a pet than Canada geese are wild animals, and they are very protective of the little ones. The little tiny baby goes, tiny geese are called goslings. And one thing I learned before is that the female are called goose, and the male are called gander. I didn't know that. That was something very interesting I learned the other day. Let's continue our drawing. The feathers, you see there's so many different types, but I'm not going to draw every single one of them. But one thing I've noticed, oh my goodness, Audrey says that she's seen Canada geese at the Garden City Park. I know, I live very close by the Garden City Park. I've seen them. They're absolutely adorable, the tiny goslings that they are already there. I know, Audrey, I know. Let's look at the feathers. These are long and these are short. So let's just do a division here, and let's make sure that whatever feather we draw here are long, and whatever feather we draw here are short. So I'm not going to draw every single one of them, but I'm just going to make sure that's my tail and that's my feather, that I draw these feathers long, long, long. How about that? Do we have that? We have this front wing and this back wing. The back wing also has, this is more difficult to see, but we're going to add them as well. And then these feathers here, as you see, they curve. These are more like squares, the ones here. That's very funny. I noticed how they look like squares, actually like tiles on a rooftop. So if I had to suggest feathers, I would start by making tiny feathers here at the top, and then a little bit more square feathers at the bottom. We don't have to draw every single one of them. And don't worry about it because it's very, very complicated. But one thing we need to define is where the wing ends, and it ends here. So let's make sure that we end our wing somewhere around here. Yeah, somewhere around here. Just made a line and a line. And when we add color, you will see how this is much, yeah, like things will look a little bit better. Our tail, and let's add, you see this white space here at the bottom? We're adding that here. And this is important because this leg is behind, this white is on top of the leg. But, and well, it ends here, but because this leg is on top, we want to continue that leg in the drawing. So we don't want to make a line here. How can they balance with tiny feet and big bodies? I know. And you know what I've seen also? Sometimes they like to stand in one foot. Is that crazy? All the balance. I guess like if you have a big mass, I've seen them sometimes. If you, I don't know, I guess depending on how you angle your leg, I think it's like us. If you stand on one foot, you can actually, you have to balance your body very nicely. Otherwise, yeah, I know they're so massive. But look in the Garden City Park or where you live, because I seen them standing on just one leg. And the first time I saw it, I'm gonna write that down. Sometimes they stand in one leg. And at first time I thought, oh my goodness, maybe he doesn't have two legs. But no, they pluck it inside and they're resting. So there you go. Let's make that tiny line here that breaks the white from this dark part. And it's right behind the leg, and it joins the wing with the leg. Do you see that? Let's make sure that we do that here. So I think we're ready to add some color here because we've done, well, one thing I'm going to add is a little bit of grass. So I'm just going to add some spiky grass here, some spiky grass. To do the grass is seriously, it's like doing M, but taller M's. And there you go. There you have your grass. So don't overthink it too much. I would also like to add some labels because I want to make sure that, yeah, this is the bill and this is the stripe here. They I want to make sure that the white stripe, I want to make sure that I add the parts. That's the tail, that's the back wing, and you can add so many labels. Back, this is the front wing. And oh, I have a soundtrack for you to catch up with the drawing before we actually go into the coloring part. So I'm going to play a sound of a bunch of Canada geese while you finish your work. It's going to start soon. It's very interesting. Can you hear it? So that is a flock of geese when they're migrating in the sky. So while you finish these, I'm just going to make a tiny drawing here of something very interesting. And you're going to be like, what is that? What is she drawing? Does anybody know what I am drawing here? This kind of V I'm drawing here. Does anybody know what that is? It looks like tiny ants on the paper. Yeah, so there you go. That's a migration. Thank you, Shark. So that is, if we look up in the sky, these geese migrate, and they migrate in a V formation. And you might ask, why? Why don't they just like go on a line? Why don't they go all in a single file line like ants? Well, because when you fly, I don't have wings, but you create draft. So if you have someone behind, yeah, there you go. Audrey, thank you. When Canada geese migrate, they use triangle. There you go. So the reason why is because they can use the draft from the goose that is in front of them if they position themselves a little bit higher. So that way, the first one is doing all the work and the other ones are kind of following. It's like cyclists. If you've seen them, they kind of use each other's draft. So when the one in the front gets tired, exactly because of the wind, when the one in front gets tired, he goes to the back. And then is the next one that is in charge of kind of conducting the whole flock of migrating geese. And yeah, as you have heard, it's all honk, honk. You can hear them honk, 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 honk. You can hear them honk. They use that to communicate with one another. So when you see these in the sky, I'm so glad you already knew about that, because I had to learn it when I moved to Canada. I had never seen anything like that. So there we go, migration, very nice. So let's add some color in the time we have left, okay? And Canada goose is slightly easier than other animals because they have a very distinct black neck, black face, black beak, and the rest of the body is brown. So I'm gonna go with my black. And one trick is to hold the color pencil a little bit differently. Instead of holding it like this, I'm gonna hold it like this. And look at this. I can make that nice patch of color. So let's start. I'm gonna make sure that I leave my white stripe untouched. And I hope if you use a red, when you go over, look at that, I don't see the blue at all. I'm sure it's the same for people that drew in red. I'm not going very hard on the page, but definitely you can see. Remember, do you see that line? I'm gonna make sure that I don't go beyond there. There we go. So now we have our very distinctive neck. Oh, absolutely. So this is a black. This is just a black, simply black. You notice that it has a little eraser at the bottom. I use my own eraser because sometimes they don't work very well. But in this case, it's a coal erase black pencil. I have other pencils that are not color erase. It doesn't really matter what type of brand, as long as you're used to them and you like them. The important thing is to, make sure that you start very light. So for example, if you see in the photo, because the light is here, imagine this is the sun, all the things that are apart from the sun are going to be darker. So I want to make sure that I do that in my drawing. So I'm going to leave the front a little bit lighter, and I'm going to put these layer a little bit darker. Do you see that? In the face as well, a little bit darker here, and as I come to the front, it gets a little bit lighter. The beak. One thing I discovered the other day is that black and blue are very similar. So for example, if I draw black, if I put blue, and then I put a little bit of black on top, I can create a very beautiful black. So I'm going to do that with the beak. I'm going to use blue, but I'm going to leave a little bit of light at the top. So I'm going to use blue. I've seen ducks that have blue bills. Can you imagine I leave it like that? I'm going to go now with a little bit of black. And I just made a very nice black that is much more interesting than if I had just put black, like black, black, black. One thing also that you can do is use black to add shadows. But the reason why I started first with black is because later, if I am like, yeah, but I see a little bit of nice, like yellow color on the neck, I can go on top. And look, if I add a color on top of the black, suddenly all the black gets that very interesting color of the thing I added later. So you can test this. You're like, what would happen if I add black and then I add yellow? What would happen if I add yellow and then I add black? It's a little bit different, isn't it? So that's experiments that you can do. Let's add a little bit of brown to the body. So I have my brown, it's a little bit tiny. I'm going to sharpen it. Because the Canada goose, as you notice, the main body is brown. It has lighter color at the front. So I'm just going to make sure that I use brown and that I don't go very dark in the front. Okay, and I'm going to hold it like I always hold my color pencil, so I can create very nice, yeah, like a patch of color. And don't worry too much about using the exact same colors that I'm using, because guess what? Your Canada goose can have purple feathers. I'm being very, very, very generous with my brown. And I am being careful not to draw underneath there. And this is a little bit darker too here. So I'm gonna use, and you see, by holding the pencil like this, you can go dark, you can go light. For example, here it's a little bit darker. So I'll just go over. And you see some of the lines we made, we don't see them well now. So we can go on top of the color pencils again and draw them more. The tail is black, so make sure that we use that black. And do you want to know a trick? When things meet things, they're a little bit darker. If I put my hand on top of the other, look at that. Look at these fingers here are darker. So let's do that here. This tail that is underneath my big wings, there you go. Look at that. It's much darker. This is a little bit white and a little bit yellow. So I'm going to use my yellow. If it's too yellow, I can use a little bit of black on top to make it a little bit darker. But I don't want to make it brown, that for sure, because that's, yeah, that's kind of white yellowish. And then the front, as I'm going to the front, let's see what I have here. I have another light brown that I'm going to use. As you can see, the colors I use the most are the tiniest. There you go. As I'm going to the front, I'm using lighter and lighter colors. And this one, I need to sharpen it because it's not doing what I want to do. There we go. Now it's doing the thing. And I'm using my whole arm. Make sure that you use your whole arm. This photo is so beautiful. I think all these areas that are white are this kind of yellow because it's the sunset. Usually this would be white, but because of the sunset, it creates this very beautiful ochre color that is very, very beautiful. So while you catch up with the colors that I made so far, I'm going to draw a title because I like to have fun with my titles. And I'm going to draw, let's see, my title, I'm going to put it here. And this is a Canada. So hopefully you can see it when I'm doing this, Canada. And I'm taking a look at the chat in case you have any questions. I have it right in front of me. Canada. Canada, I don't want to spell it, misspell it. Canada goose. Let's see, how can I make this letter? Goose with two O. And does anybody know what's the plural of goose, because you cannot say gooses. Not gooses. Does anybody know what's that? Yeah, there you go. So more than one. It's, as Audrey said, and shark. Oh my goodness, you know so much. Geese. That's something I also had to learn when I came to Canada. Let's do Stephanie. They also know that the more than one is called geese. I'm so glad you all know this, because I kept saying I've seen so many geeses or gooses, and people were like, let's add some color into the eye. What I'm going to do in the eye here, I'm going to do it here bigger, because you see that highlight? That's very important. I'm going to color the eye in black, and I'm going to leave an area here at the top that is not colored in black. Do you see that? So this is the eye, but because this is bigger. Oh, Jeanette also knew. That's wonderful. Oh my goodness, you all know much more than I do know about geese. So what I'm doing here is leaving a highlight, and I'm also coloring the eye ring. And because things meet, I'm going to draw a little bit darker at the bottom of the eye and a little bit darker at the bottom of the eye ring. So I'm going to move here. I'm going to make my, it's so tiny that's why I made it there. So probably in your drawing, you can do this with much more detail. But yeah, I'm pretty much drawing the eye here. And then where the eye meets the head, also a little bit darker at the bottom. There we go. And now I can go even with the beak. I can add a little bit of dark, the nostril, a little bit underneath the beak, and you can add as much detail as you want. One thing that we said is that we would add a little bit of detail of wings. So with, even you can do it with a brown pencil. So you can just add the wings that we added before, and this line here that we missed, and these wings that we did before that maybe you still see them. In my drawing, I cannot see them very well. So I'm just gonna suggest the wings that we did before, because when I added my color, they kind of got a little bit lost. And I can see, you see these like lines, like stripy things, those are made by the feathers. So maybe with my brown pencil, maybe I can just make a couple of lines. I hold my pencil and I do this. And if you make them random, like here and here, and notice how they change direction as well, right? So if I say here and here and here and here, suddenly we added a lot of information that we did it very quickly. We didn't draw every single feather, and yet look at that, we just added feathers. You can do the same thing here with the wings, like by adding a little bit of like semicircles with a color pencil, but this is just a detail. Like it depends really how much time you have. One thing that we need to definitely add some color is the legs, and they're a little bit brown. So I'm just going to make sure though that because the sun is here, that I leave the front part of the leg a little bit lighter. Okay, so if I add a little bit of color, it would be mostly on the back of the leg. Okay, so we leave that front. Even I'm going to add a little bit of the same ochre color because of the light. And what do we say? That they like eating grass, they like eating grain. So I might add some grass. I might add some color to my grass because I want him to be walking on a surface. Otherwise, he's going to be floating in space. And I don't know you, but I haven't met an astronaut goose yet. So, well, we'll have to see. Maybe, who knows? Maybe there's some. Maybe they have to wear a little helmet and a little tank of oxygen, and they can go into space. We don't know. We don't know. So it's now 11. Oh, they like grass. That's true, Janet. It's now 11:54. So we're going to have to end in 5 minutes. But I wanted to make sure that if there was anything that you wanted to share, I definitely encourage you to send your drawings to the Richmond Nature Park Society, because they would love, absolutely love, to see what you've done today. So please do, and stay tuned, because there's so many things going on in Vancouver because of Bird Week. I'm going to put the link again so you can actually see how awesome all these things are, and you can follow them from the safety of your own home. So yeah. And things about the Canada goose to remember is, let's leave them eat what they eat in nature. Let's not feed them, especially bread is awful for them. Bread is awful. And sometimes people think they're doing a good thing, but they're actually not very capable of digesting bread. Ducks don't digest, and they don't eat bread very well. They eat it, but they cannot actually find any nutrition there. So I would suggest that we leave them eat what they eat in nature. And when you see them in the park with the little goslings, give them some space, because they become protective. Imagine that someone was trying to steal your babies or your toys. You would also get mad, right? So let's give them some space. Let's just look at them, watch at them from a safe distance, so they don't become nervous, okay? So as you see, I'm having some fun with my title here. So if you would like to ask any last questions, I'm going to leave the drawing here for a few seconds with the original photo. And well, if you have any questions that I can take care of before we conclude today, I am extremely happy that you spent Saturday morning with me. Oh, thank you, Stephanie. And I hope you and your girls had a lot of fun. I'm very, very grateful to the Richmond Nature Park Society for sponsoring this. Send your drawings. They will love to see what you've done. And please, let's take care of nature. What are we going to draw next time? Oh, actually, I know. Do you want to know, Shark? The Richmond Nature House is drawing, drum roll, bees and butterflies. And we're going to do that on June 12th. Isn't that awesome? You know, in exclusive now. So now you can go register, and I can wait to see you there. So everyone, have fun, go out in nature, observe birds, and they're very, very interesting creatures. Thank you everyone for joining, and enjoy the rest of your Saturday. Bye-bye. Bye, everybody. Bye-bye. Honk, 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 honk. Bye-bye.